Ari Lewis Show.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Ari Lewis Show on Israel Sports and News Radio. Thank you for joining us. At any time, you can email the program, arilewishow@hotmail.com, or you can email the station, Israel Sports News Radio @gmail.com. On Tuesday, February 9th, New Hampshire voters made their voice known. They've certainly had an effect on the presidential race of 2016. We're going to talk about this presidential race more in detail. On the line right now, political expert, Washington, D.C. insider. He was at one point the chief counsel to the Judiciary Committee of the U.S. House of Representatives, and also is alumni from Columbia University Law School. First time to the program, please give a warm Ari Lewis Show welcome to Lyle Nirenberg. Lyle, how you doing out there?
Doing fine, thank you, and thank you for having me on the show, Ari.
Yes, indeed. So let's go to not Super Tuesday, but a big Tuesday. One of the big question marks coming in, Marco Rubio's performance in the debate on Saturday night was not good. He even admitted it was not good, not a good performance. How much did that affect his production as far as voters voting for him or not voting for him on Tuesday?
So, very good question there, Ari. And as you know, Super Tuesday is approaching, and as in addition, we have for the Democrats the Nevada caucus coming, as well as South Carolina, which could be very interesting for Rubio as well as Cruz and, of course, Trump. A lot of people that I'm in contact with, the political experts, have been counting all along and making the bet that the final candidate for the Republicans, and we're still a while away, they are betting across the board that it'll be Rubio. And, Rubio, as you know, in New Hampshire, did not do well at all. And New Hampshire was a crushing victory, a walloping, once again, for Donald Trump. And I want to talk a little bit about that. And I also want to touch, I don't know how much you want to touch about this, about what happened with the Democrats. Very interesting story there as well.
Yes, and we'll get to Democrats in a few minutes. Let's talk about the Republicans, because Donald Trump did not win Iowa, second place, but it didn't really seem to faze him. He kind of said congratulations and moved on. I think he kind of knew he wasn't going to win Iowa. A lot has been made of the fact that this is Trump's nomination to lose. Do you still feel that's the case? He has to make a big screw up, and if he doesn't, he's the Republican nomination.
Well, basically, if you look closely at the results in Iowa, Trump did not win, but he barely lost. Okay, he's very close to being the winner there. Ted Cruz won, of course, and Cruz won for a few different reasons. I'll discuss those in a second. But Trump is very, very close in percentage point, and only one delegate below what Cruz, the winner, received. So that's important to note. And we see a completely different story in New Hampshire. Now, one of the things that was stressed in Iowa, and thank you for bringing that up, Ari, was that Ted Cruz was in there early and had a tremendous ground game. Okay? And he had tremendous support on the he knew he was going to lose some of the more liberal areas around Des Moines, but he had tremendous field work everywhere in the state, especially among the Christian fundamentalists and Christian right. And he did tremendously there. And that's one of the ingredients of the Obama wins, Bill Clinton's wins, as well as what the Democratic experts are looking at right now for the presidentials. To what extent will this group of Christian fundamentals who have the biggest population growth in the United States, to what extent will they actually participate, if you understand me, in voting in the presidentials?
Right, because there's the factor, the stay-at-home factor, where some people feel there isn't a candidate that they're into in any case. Another interesting angle for the whole New Hampshire primary situation, Jeb Bush felt a bit victorious because he made the comment that before New Hampshire, the race was between a reality TV star and two first-term senators, and now Jeb feels like he's back in it. Jeb is the money guy. Jeb raised over $100 million pretty early. He's got the name. So is Jeb back in this race for any type of serious contention?
Well, Ari, a lot of people are trying to decide whether or not if Jeb is about to announce leaving the race.
Wow, so even though he made those comments on Tuesday, he's still thinking about leaving.
In New Hampshire, he finished a distant fourth place. But that being said, the spread between Marco Rubio, Jeb Bush, and Ted Cruz in New Hampshire was very, very close. But again, Rubio, even though he's in half a percentage point of Jeb Bush, gets no delegates. And Trump, again, gets almost all the delegates. But we had a tremendous narrow finish between Ted Cruz, Jeb Bush, Marco Rubio. Now, as you know, Chris Christie dropped out after New Hampshire.
Right, Christie was 6.
And but Donald Trump has some nice words about him and says he loves him as a man and wants him back in. But big question mark about Jeb Bush, even though well named and also very well known himself and his family and very well funded. And if you could, Ari, let's talk about what happened in New Hampshire among the Democrats.
Yeah, big win for Bernie Sanders, and Hillary must feel like 2008 is somewhat potentially repeating itself. Hillary was the favorite going in against Barack Obama in 2008. She loses. She's the favorite going in against Bernie Sanders before this race starts, and she did not do well in New Hampshire. So talk about that aspect. Why did Hillary not do so well against Bernie Sanders in New Hampshire?
Okay, so Bernie Sanders is, first of all, more or less a local, but it's much deeper than that. Hillary lost, believe it or not, Hillary Clinton lost in New Hampshire to Bernie Sanders by 22 percentage points. No one would have dreamt of this. You read me?
Yeah, so that was a big – so it's just that Bernie won. He won by 22 points. Okay, why was it such a big victory for Senator Sanders?
We see very high polls because of a lot of things, whether it be Benghazi or whether it be this email scandal. The public is basically – Hillary suffers from a loss of confidence in her message. And that's been hurting her. There was some huge figure, 92%, that don't trust her right now, don't have confidence in her. And Hillary needs to do magic, basically, in South Carolina. And the camp is really, unfortunately, our message is, spelling division in some ways. And she contradicts herself, but she realizes she has to do real good with the Clinton name in South Carolina. And as a result, she's going to spend all of her efforts from yesterday to get a huge percentage of the black vote in South Carolina. If she doesn't, she's in bad shape for the rest of this electoral process. It'll be very interesting to see how Sanders weighs in. You know, a lot of people said, it's very interesting, Bernie Sanders, they had no idea until Sanders came along how vibrant and alive the Democratic left was in the year 2016. And some of these people who are flocking to Bernie Sanders are extreme left-wing, and some of them are socialists, and they do exist. And a point I wanted to just to contrast that with, Democratic experts in the Clinton camp, the Bill Clinton camp, noted that basically when Mitt Romney ran as a presidential candidate, you understand?
Yep.
And in many ways because of the division within the Republican Party, between right and left within the Republican Party, one of the things we were hoping about that the Christian right and where we have some cases averaging between 3 and 6 voters per household did not vote in 2 consecutive presidential elections, believe this or not. And Clinton's experts wrote books about this, saying that it was her dream. There was infighting with Sarah Palin, Mitt Romney, et cetera, within the Republican Party, and a lot of people stayed home. And this is the key to this in the long run, and everyone who's in both parties realizes this. To what extent do these families vote and participate, actually vote, in the presidential election and primaries? And to what extent is Hispanic America going to vote? And to what side? Now, they're traditionally Democratic, but we have some very, very talented Hispanic American candidates on the Republican side. So it's a very interesting play. These 2 factors, Hispanic America and Christian fundamentalists, and there is overlap between them, of course. And both have very, very interesting demographics and very decisive in some of the key states, New York, Florida, Texas. Those 3 states are very determinative and both are filled with both populations. And Donald Trump has said, and he realizes better than we do, he has said, wait until you see how good I do in Florida. Wait until you see how good I do in New York and New Jersey. But we'll see. It remains to be seen. And this has been the key to several presidential elections. And again, Clinton's people said to him, they gave this to you. The Republicans gave this to you because the most important friends of the Republican Party didn't vote because they felt ostracized. And that's where the figures came out. That actually happened. So, again, let's get back to what we were talking about. Hillary has to win that black vote in South Carolina, or that she has to get a miracle in Super Tuesday.
All right, this is another episode of the Ari Lewis Show here on Israel Sports News Radio. We're joined by political expert Lyle Nirenberg talking about New Hampshire and some of the things that will come in the future. Before we get to Carolina, I want to address the age of the two frontrunners at this point. Bernie Sanders, 74 years old. He'll be 75 in September. Donald Trump will be 70 in the summer. And they say a presidential term ages someone by about 20 years. Barack Obama was 47 when he was elected president. He looks a lot older than that. So in all seriousness, how could these two gentlemen who will be in their 70s, if they are president, how could they take this job on, the most stressful job in the world?
Ari, that's a great question. And you notice how careful Trump is with his hair. It's related to that. He wants to show a full head of hair. This hurt Nixon in previous attempts at the presidency, where he was unsuccessful. And I imagine his hair is partially colored to hide his age. He does look younger than you would suspect. And Hillary is also fairly way up there. And what's interesting, we look at the breakdown of who voted for Hillary Clinton in New Hampshire, and it was people over 50 years of age in the top income brackets. You understand what I'm saying? It's an amazing, perhaps telling statistic. Over the age of 50 voting for Hillary, and in the upper middle class to upper class voting for Hillary. You see how the message is not necessarily getting across what Hillary was hoping to send to the public. I want to bring up a point what you're saying also, and maybe it sells newspapers, maybe it sells readership on your show, Ari. New York Post and the New Hampshire papers really attacked Donald Trump before and after. And there was an anti-Trump headline in the Post today, I think, or it might have been a couple, I'm not sure exactly. Shows him in a clown suit and says, "Dawn of the Brain Dead." Now, this sells papers, perhaps, and Trump has addressed this, and it's sort of touching on what you're saying. They're saying this guy's uncomplicated and he's old. But my personal take on this is that when you do something like this, you risk offending his supporters. You risk offending people who are borderline. It just went too far. And the smart voter realizes this type of extreme statement in a newspaper headline with a clown suit is done to sell newspapers. And what's also true here is that we see both in Sanders and Trump, even in spite of their age, they're both clearly political outsiders. Sanders, independent party candidate, and Trump lacking any significant political experience whatsoever. And this is an anti-establishment vote. And I've heard it talk that Richard Nixon's name mentioned, because Richard Nixon, when he entered into politics, he was not establishment. And he catalyzed a silent majority of middle-class Americans. And this is a very serious point today because the middle class in America is struggling economically. And Sanders and Trump are reflecting an anti-government sentiment that's also reflected and will be reflected in congressional elections. We'll see a lot of surprises perhaps there. And it's possible that they could put together a silent majority of enough people that are continually displeased where this country is heading to continue successfully what they've been doing thus far.
All right, so talk about you're talking about South Carolina, and Hillary will have to go after the black vote to have a chance. I mean, how could she go about doing that? She could, I guess, stress her husband's record as president, very popular among African American voters. What would you say should be Hillary's tips going into South Carolina?
So Hillary, it's very interesting. She contradicted herself in New Hampshire on this. But the Clinton families they're political experts. But Bill, what's interesting, and I was in the White House with Bill, signing some of these provisions. Bill attacked and strengthened the penal code to address repeat offenders. This was a joint Republican-Democratic provision in the crime bill. Bill Clinton signed it. You understand? So
Yep. Yeah.
we strengthened penalties for repeat offenders of violent crimes. And we said to the Justice Department, use what we give to you. It's an existing law. We're upping mandatory penalties, strict mandatory minimum penalties. Enforce the law, Justice Department, we're giving you more money. Now, this is double-sided because almost an overwhelming majority of the people that this law was enforced against were black young men. And people know this. So the Bill Clinton message is not always positive among black voters in the South, because many of these people had someone affected in their family by Clinton's attempt to be tough on crime. Hillary's going to try to differentiate herself to this, and she will talk about welfare. She will talk about empowering black America, sort of a Barack Obama message. Okay?
Right.
It's no one quite knows to what extent it will be, successful. It's a very good question. She has to be successful. And we'll probably see, by the way, Ben Carson. Ben Carson doesn't do good in South Carolina. He's out of the race, I suspect. And he did fairly well in New Hampshire, but it's not good enough. In Iowa, he did fairly well, but he has to do really, really good in South Carolina. I think he's out of the race. And I don't think, and of course, Carly Fiorina dropped out of the race. But again, we're looking at definitely seeing a narrowing of the field. And Donald Trump is continuing to do better than anyone would have expected, being much long-winded. They thought it'd be one primary, 1 week, 1 month, and he stays there, and he's managing to feed into a dissatisfied America. America's dissatisfied economically, dissatisfied what has happened to the American image internationally. A lot of American middle-class members are struggling to pay bills. Wages are stagnant. Inflation is rising and rising. We're entering a deflationary period. And people are very upset at what the message being received from Washington. And Donald Trump very successfully caters to this. He's viewed as being unsophisticated in his speech. And people actually love this. And I would not be surprised if he does really well in the South. I don't know how well, but I would not be surprised if he does well in South Carolina. Ari, the magic word here is momentum.
Right, absolutely.
And he has it,
He certainly has it. The big winner of New Hampshire, Donald Trump. Again, this is the Ari Lewis Show on Israel Sports News Radio, joined by political expert Lyle Nirenberg here on the program. Last question before we let you go.
Yes.
Give us your prediction of what's going to happen the next few weeks. We know who has the momentum, who are some of the front runners. Tell us what do you think is going to happen, though, in the next couple of weeks. Okay,
so first of all, Ari, I just wanted to mention a general theme I see here. And a lot of Americans feel this way, people I speak to, and they're reflecting this in their votes, and they're reflecting this in their Sanders votes and your Trump votes. Worldwide, including America and elsewhere, we see there's either no leadership, there's no vocal leadership, and the leaders that we do have in place in different countries are showing a lack of vision, at least in the minds of the voters. Whether it's in Spain, Greece, the European Central Bank, or the United States, people are looking for real leadership, and that's very much lacking. And I think that's why you see people like Sanders and Trump doing so well. They're willing to go outside the box to give someone else a chance. Now, if this is the best thing for America, I can't tell you. I believe that Trump is going to continue to do well. How well, we'll see. I think we see Cruz staying in, Trump and Rubio. I think we see Bush dropping out.
Wow. Pretty big deal.
I think Ted Cruz is extremely, extremely good with the Christian right. He is very, very pro-Israel. And I'm actually friends with several people in that office. And he's a very, very intelligent man. And Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio are both Hispanic Americans, which is a huge advantage. And they're Republicans. And we'll have to see how both of those guys, Rubio's still in the race, and we'll see how these two, Rubio and Cruz, deal with Trump. No one expected Donald Trump to continue this way. If Trump continues through Super Tuesday with this momentum, it's going to be very, very interesting, Ari. And Hillary is doing it's just a bizarre set of facts. It's a bizarre set of facts, and to the extent that the momentum carries, if Hillary does not do as good as we see in South Carolina, let me see what we have here. Let me see if I have any more information here. Actually, Democrats go to Nevada. That's what I thought. It's a closed caucus in Nevada. And we have on Saturday the 20th the Democratic caucus in Nevada for the Democrats. So that'll be interesting. I'm not sure how that's reflected, but we just have a situation here where it's so bizarre that people are saying Hillary or the Democratic Party, the Clintons, Obama, should have on speed dial Joe Biden, believe it or not.
Wow, that would be pretty interesting. All right, well, certainly interesting times ahead regarding the political campaign, 2016 United States presidential election. Discussing that here on the Ari Lewis Show on Israel Sports News Radio. My guest has been Mr. Lyle Nirenberg, who is a political expert, Washington, D.C. insider, who has done a lot of great things in the world of politics. So we appreciate you coming on the program today, and enjoy the political elections and the political primaries to come.
Will do, and thank you, Ari. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Have a great day. Be well.
You too. Bye-bye.